Canada feels like it's dead and people are leaving like crazy. In fact, we just posted the second highest numbers for immigration in a quarter, Q1 of 2025. So I have an article that I'm going to go over today that breaks down exactly what is happening right now in Canada. But before I want to get into that, I want to talk about the fact that I'm seeing this happen in real time. This is not just data. This is not just numbers. I personally know 2 realtors who are moving to Dubai. I already know one guy who left to the States. I know a couple people who have gone to Mexico. And I talk to people every single day who want to leave the country. So it's not just data. There's actually like, I'm seeing this happen in real life. And, I'll take that a step further and say that, because you get whenever this topic comes up, you get the comments, people are like, Canada is one of the best places in the world and you're ungrateful and you have no idea what you have and blah, blah, blah. And I agree. Like Canada is still one of the best countries in the world, in my opinion. And I think the problem is that 10 years ago, I think you would have said Canada is the best country in the world. And I don't think you can say that anymore. I think it's one of the best, but it's not the best. And I think people are leaving not because Canada isn't a good place to live right now, because it is, but I think they're leaving because they see a clear downward trajectory in the country. They're leaving before it gets worse than what it already is, right? Because I don't think anybody would argue that there's a very clear downward trajectory in where the country's heading. So I agree, Canada is a good place to live. There's not a lot of places that beat Canada at the moment, in my opinion, right? But I also think that it's getting worse and there's nothing that's going to stop it from getting worse, at least in the short term. And in fact, my whole real estate investing thesis, even this was like, 2017, 2018, back in the day when you would invest in real estate, you would say, hey, listen, this country is going to continue to get better. There's going to be more jobs. They're going to innovate. They're going to attract high value immigrants into the country because of this. And because I can't buy shares in Canada and invest in Canada like that, the way I'm going to invest is I'm going to buy some land. I'm going to invest in the dirt there, knowing that the overall country is going to get better. But with Canada, the way that I always looked at it is like, I think the government is going to screw things up so bad that it's actually going to increase the price of assets. I think they're going to, run immigration hot. They're going to drop the interest rates. They're going to have too high of taxes. They're going to restrict supply. There's going to be so much bureaucracy. And the end result of that is going to be higher real estate prices. And even today, that is literally the bull case for real estate. Like what's the bull case right now? The bull case is that the economy's so screwed that developers can't actually build new supply. So we'll have no new housing in 3 or 4 years. They're going to drop rates, do QE, and maybe immigration will return next year or the year after that. So the bull case for real estate right now is literally bad. Like it's not good for the country, right? The bull case is that they're going to make things even worse. So it ends up pushing up asset prices. And unfortunately, that's the way that I've always looked at it, right? I'm not buying real estate in Canada because I think Canada is going to get better as a country. I'm actually buying it because I think they're going to make things so much worse to the point that it's just going to increase the value of my real estate. But anyways, Canadians are leaving for good in record high volumes. Canada's temporary population boom may be over, but its long-term resident outflow is just beginning. StatsCan data shows emigration, the act of citizens or permanent residents permanently leaving, jumped higher in Q1 2025. Canadians left in the second highest Q1 volume on record, a trend that's only gained momentum since the pandemic. Canadian emigration, it's like capital flight, but with talent. Emigration is when a Canadian or permanent resident leaves the country permanently. Outflows happen, but persistent and rising outflows indicate growing discontent with local conditions, whether it's economic, political, housing, or brain drain. Ultimately, it signals a country failing to offer opportunity or inspire long-term confidence. It's not just any group leaving either. It's primarily talented prime-age workers with the most opportunities, which is horrible for the economy long-term. And just to add some clarity, I'm not saying that all of those things are going to happen to push up real estate values. I'm just saying that's the bull case. Like if you want the price of a home to go up relatively soon, that's pretty much the bull case, right? Otherwise, there's a much more better long-term way that they can get the price of homes to go up, but that's going to take a very long time where we are right now, right? Policymakers don't pay much attention to gross volumes, preferring net numbers. As long as they can make more Canadians than they lose, a worker is a worker. Replacing an experienced worker with a fresh graduate is not a straight trade, at least not immediately. It ignores the fact that Canadian talent is also some of the most coveted in the world. Training new talent while ignoring losses after they're trained isn't a benefit to Canada. It's a competitive edge to the countries we're losing these people to. When policymakers start to frame talent as replaceable or frame those who leave as the problem, we're cooked. I hate this. I hate that people are using this word. And very academically smart people that have big followings and they're well versed in their field, whatever it is they're talking about, are using this freaking word. Stop saying this. People who leave are being framed as the problem, then we are fucked. That's what I would say. I wouldn't say cooked. They're not focusing on long-term success, but on short-term optics and insider deals. In other words, the longer they ignore the outflow, the more talented labor should consider external opportunities, at least temporarily. That said, let's look at the data. So this is the number of Canadian citizens and permanent residents that permanently left the country in the first quarter. So this is where we are right now. 27,000. Yeah, 27,000 people emigrated in the first quarter. And then you have 2017, which was right at the end of the last housing run-up, was also about 27,000 people. And it's been elevated since 2023 and seems to be getting worse and increasing every year at the moment. Canada's population growth rate is stalling, but immigration retained its breakneck growth rate. The country estimates 27,000 Canadians emigrated in quarter one 2025, a 3% increase from last year, which also saw 3% growth. Second only to 2017, it was the largest Q1 outflow ever recorded. Immigration is a seasonal trend that can be bad news. The highest volume tends to occur in quarter three. So we haven't even seen the highest that we are going to see this year, according to this. And if this trend persists, we may have another record-setting year on our hands. So it says Canada losing long-term residents is a long-term trend. Historically, Canada is known for its population retention. From the 1950s through the 1990s, quarterly immigration has largely remained below 10,000 people, and we're at 27,000. After 2000, immigration began climbing steadily, likely due to increased global opportunities. However, post-2021, we see clear and persistent growth that is unlike anything we've ever seen. Several quarters breached 15,000 immigrants, with 2025 kicking off one of the strongest trends on record. Annual growth highlights how persistent this rising trend has become. The 12-month period ending in Q1 2025 saw 106.9K immigrants. The 12-month, so 107,000 people left last year in the last 12 months, up 3% from a year prior. Aside from a spike in 2017, this is the highest sustained outflow since the 1960s. Canada's focus on rapid population growth has proven to be destabilizing in many aspects, from housing to employment opportunities. Policymakers have pledged to throttle the growth and focus on domestic development, which is a good first step, but the damage is done and the outflows are accelerating, meaning policymakers need to prove their promises weren't just election window dressing. Capital flight is widely recognized as a serious issue. Money leaving the country signals eroding confidence, but capital isn't just financial. It also includes people, along with the social and economic value they create. Canada's rising immigration is human capital flight, and that's a far more serious problem. So there you have it. The numbers, the people leaving. I'm sure you guys are talking to a lot of people who want to leave the country. I know I am. I've seen it. I've seen people leave the country. And unfortunately, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for Canada in the short term. I'm a pretty positive guy, I would say. I'm very positive about where my life is going. I don't know how positive I am about where Canada is going, right? We're just going to have to wait and see how all of this plays out. But I'll tell you, the reason why I own real estate is I will never bet against the Canadian government doing what they do best, which is inflating away the value of the currency, pushing up asset valuations, and that is why I own real estate. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe. If you want to chat with me about buying or selling real estate in the Fraser Valley, link down in the description. I am that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.